Hey guys, Mr. Wilhelm here. Today we're going to take a look at the cell theory. Cell theory is a basic principle that guides biology. It guides our understanding of living things. And a lot of science and a lot of research is based upon cell theory. Cell theory was developed long time ago by several different scientists, and as they searched and to discover the different aspects and different properties and characteristics of cells. There are three parts to the cell theory. The first part says that all living things are made of cells. If it's alive, it is composed of cells. Plants, animals, bacteria, fungus, all of those living things are composed of cells. Now, some things are so small that they're only made of just one cell. And we call that uni, U-N-I, uni, which equals one, unicellular, okay, or single-celled organisms. The second part of the cell theory states that cells are the basic units of structure and function in living things. Cells are the basic building blocks of living things. Now, if you were to think of a house is made of bricks. You have individual bricks. You put all those bricks together, you stack all those bricks up together, and you get the house. It's the same thing for cells. Okay? Living organisms are made of cells. Living organisms have cells stacked up on top of each other in order to make up the entire thing, the entire living organism. The third part of the cell theory states that living cells come from only other living cells. Basically, I cannot get a living cell from a rock, which is a dead thing. It's something that's not living. I can't get a living cell out of water. Water is also non-living. Also, I can only get living cells from other living cells. Okay, so I can't get a living cell from a dead cell, a previous living cell. So these three things are the cell theory, these three statements. All living things are made of cells. Cells are the basic structure and function in living things, and living cells come only from other living cells. Now, let's take another look at organization of living things. Okay? Organization says that when we're talking about organization of living things, we're talking about how an organism is made up, from its smallest part to its largest part. Okay? From its basic building block, which is the individual cell, to the overall organism. So the smallest part of an organism, the most basic part of an organism, is the individual cell. So here I have a cell. It's the basic unit of structure and function of living things. It's our smallest piece, our basic building block. It's like that brick in the house, that individual brick. Now, if I take a bunch of cells, a bunch of similar cells, and I put them together, I get what I call a tissue. Okay? A tissue is a bunch of similar cells put together. Whether that is a bunch of red blood cells put together to make up blood tissue, a bunch of skin cells put together to make up skin tissue. Okay? Now, if I take a bunch of similar tissues and put them together, I get an organ. Okay? So if I have a bunch of stomach cells and together give me stomach tissue, and if I have stomach tissues together, it gives me an organ, which in this case, the stomach. Okay? Stomachs are made up of stomach cells and stomach tissue, just like the brain is made up of brain cells and brain tissue. Now, if I have a bunch of organs that share a similar goal, a similar function, you get an organ system. So in this case, I have the digestive system, the esophagus, the stomach, small and large intestines. So many organs working together for an overall goal, to achieve a goal, in this case digestion. That is an organ system. And then lastly, if I have a bunch of organ systems working together, I get an organism. Organ system, circulatory system, digestive system, respiratory system, skeletal system. So if I got all these basic organ systems working together, it gives me the overall organism. So we start off with the cell being the basic structure and function of living things, the smallest building block, that individual brick, and I put similar cells together, I get a tissue. Similar tissues together, I get an organ. Similar organs, or at least organs working together for this common goal, for the same function, I get an organ system. And then several different organ systems working together, I get an organism. Now, another thing to note about all of this is cells are the basic building block of structure and function of living things, but cells are also relatively small, right? Most cells, some cells are smaller than others, but when an organism is going to get larger, when an organism grows, okay, it gets bigger by simply adding more cells. Cells cannot get larger on their own. You don't have a small heart cell growing to be a huge heart cell. You don't have a small brain cell growing to be a huge brain cell. A way an organism gets bigger is it simply adds more cells. So if I've got a mouse and I've got an elephant, the elephant has way more cells in it than the mouse does because that organism is bigger. It's not because the elephant's cells are bigger than the mouse's cells. It just has more of them. It has more cells. So remember that when an organism gets bigger, it gets bigger by adding cells. If you need to, go back, stop, rewind, watch this again. Remember your 5 levels of cell organization and then also the 3 parts of the cell theory.